I did low-key forget that I actually have a physical book to show you guys. Hi everyone, today is my May wrap-up and I'm so excited to talk about all of these books with you guys, especially since I felt like in the beginning of the month I was going through a little bit of a slump, but thankfully everything kind of ended up working out. I felt like I was getting back on track and that I was reading books that I was really excited about, and I feel like we ended off this month in the highest of high notes. So I'm so excited to talk about these books. Let's just jump right on into it. So the first book that I ended up reading in May was Severance by Ling Ma, and I ended up not rating this book. I feel like maybe I was just like a little bit conflicted on what I should rate this book, because there were parts of it that I did really enjoy and then there were other parts of it that I absolutely didn't enjoy, and I felt like a lot of the structure was just really off. Basically, Severance is kind of a dystopian-esque novel. It was released, I believe, in 2018 and is basically set within this future where there has been a huge pandemic, and it's very eerily reminiscent of what happened in the beginning of COVID and what you could have seen society kind of go towards in an alternate universe. And so I kind of kept putting this book off. I think I got it from Book of the Month before 2020, I'm pretty sure, but I think that I just kept putting it off because I'm like, it's a little too fresh, it's a little too like weirdly parallel to what's going on, and I didn't want to read it for the longest time. And then I just finally decided to pick it up now because I'm like, I need to read the books on my shelves, I need to kind of get through my TBR list. So I decided to pick it up, and it didn't vibe with me. I really liked the premise, I liked the idea, but I just felt like the execution was not there. In my Goodreads review, I talk a lot about like the weird tonal choices that were made for this book, and in one of my Goodreads updates I say, I think this actually might have had a stronger impact on me if I had read this before the pandemic, because now it just feels trite and predictable. But also there are a lot of issues I have with the writing itself. During a scene where the main character has sex, she describes her partner's penis as a Schwarzenegger dick. And then there's also a quote where it's like, maggoty maggots. It's just like, it feels like the tone is very weird. There's some weird like choices artistically and like just like with word choice, and I just felt like this book needed a stricter editor. Like I needed the tone to be a bit more consistent. I needed there to be a bit more of refinement. I needed there to be a bit more of like a structural shift. I needed, like, the structure just was so loose. I never felt like I was grounded within the story. So yeah, I really needed a stricter editor here. And honestly, that's kind of where I falter a lot with certain books, where I'm like, this book did not have a strict enough editor. This book needed to go through a few more rounds of editing before it could be published. And unfortunately, a lot of books slip through that crack. And I don't know if it's because publishers just want to push out books or because they think it's just like good enough. And I'm like, I don't want a good enough book, I want a really great book. So unfortunately, I just did not like Severance, and like I said in my update, I'm like, maybe this would have been more impactful pre-2020, but post-2020, it didn't work for me. It just felt like, okay, yeah, whatever. The next book is one that I absolutely loved. This is like my first 5 out of 5 for this month, and that was Natural Beauty by Huang. And as you guys know, if you follow me on like TikTok or if you watch my shorts or my reels or whatever, I loved this book so much. It was so perfect and so apt for this specific moment in time, especially where there's like a huge push for like natural clean beauty and skincare and stuff like that. Basically, this book is about a young woman. She used to be a pianist, and now she is kind of trying to like figure out what her place is in life, especially after the horrific accident that her parents got in. and she's just feeling really adrift, and so she ends up getting a job at this like skincare beauty brand, and it's not only just a brand, it's kind of like a spa as well, and she kind of gets sucked into this very cultish environment, and it's really, really dark and deep and intriguing and creepy and gross, but in the best way possible. And it's really, really interesting to watch the development into more insane acts of like trying to become beautiful, trying to experience like a rebirth of self. It's really deranged because it starts off as like really typical kind of like TikTok beauty trends, like things that you would typically see in the social media space, but it very quickly turns into something very horrific. And this book really delves deep into beauty standards and kind of has this sort of theme of cultural assimilation and cultural death. And it's kind of hard to explain without completely spoiling the book, but truly, believe me, this is so well done, so well written, so well executed. Everything was just so sharp and intense, and I absolutely loved it. If you read any of the books that I talk about in this video, definitely make it Natural Beauty. It was so good. It was so good. And honestly, I love literary fiction horror crossovers. I think that they're so good, and I will eat them up every single time. They're so good. The next book I read was actually one that I read on my Kindle. I wish I had my Kindle with me so I could show you guys, but I ended up reading this mostly on the treadmill every time I went to the gym, and that was Ship's About to Go Down by Audrey Vaughn. This is an adult romance book, and I really, really enjoyed this one. I believe I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. This one was just really, really fun, and I had such a good time reading it. And basically this book is about this young woman, and she is really into kind of being like a mixologist, a bartender, but I feel like bartender is like not even a good enough word to describe what she does, because she really does like craft these intricate and really great cocktails. And she used to have this sort of like social media presence going on with her ex-boyfriend, but when they were offered this sort of like TV series deal, he ended up taking it and kind of pushing her off to the side, stealing a lot of her ideas and doing it on his own. Therefore, ex-boyfriend. And so she ends up leaving New York and going back to, I believe it's like her hometown or like her mom's hometown or whatever, and she ends up getting this job as a bartender at this local bar, this local brewery, and they are trying to kind of break into like canned cocktails or canned beer or whatever. And so they hire her, and they kind of have this deal with her that she is going to go up against her old rival, and they have to come up with like a craft cocktail that they can and sell. And I really, really enjoyed this. It's very kind of like, it's very light enemies to lovers. It's definitely not the kind of like hardcore by the book enemies to lovers, but it's there. It's kind of there. It's definitely more of like rivals to lovers or whatever. But overall, I really, really enjoyed it. I've been like totally devouring small town romance books. I think they're so fun, and they're perfect for like the spring and summertime. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I thought it had like the perfect balance of plot and steaminess and romance and everything like that. I really enjoyed the main couple. I felt like they had a lot of good chemistry. And sometimes when you read these books about two characters that kind of have a history with each other, it can feel a little bit distant. It can feel a little bit like you're not being let in on the inside joke, if that makes sense. However, with this book, I felt like we really were let in as readers, and we really got to see how these two characters were before and how they are now, and how that has kind of affected them and how it affects their relationship. And so really enjoyed this book, highly recommended. I know it's part of a series and I would love to read the next books, but we'll have to see if I'm able to get my hands on them. But yeah, overall, really enjoyed this book. Highly recommend it. The next book I ended up reading was This Summer Will Be Different by Carley Fortune. And if you've been watching my videos, you will know that I did read Every Summer After, which is the first book that she published. And I don't believe I rated it, but I do think that there were parts of it that I really liked, and then there were parts of it that just like didn't work for me. It was kind of a very middle of the road book. I just felt very like meh about it. So I never really had the intention of reading any of her other books, but I saw so many people reading this book, This Summer Will Be Different, and I could not escape the hype train. I am not immune to the hype train. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes a book just like continually pops up on my Instagram feed or on my TikTok feed or Threads or whatever, and I'm just like, I have to read it. I have to see what everybody is hyping up this book about. Like, I need to know. And so I decided to pick it up, and I'm so glad I made that decision because, like I said, I've been loving a small town romance, and this one is perfect for the summer. It's perfect for the summer. I loved it. And basically it's about this young woman and her very best friend, and her best friend is set to get married in like a week or a week and a half or something like that, and she ends up getting this really crazy phone call from her friend being like, I don't know what to do, I need you to come to this, you know, my hometown, and I just need you right now, and blah, blah, blah. And so the main character is like, I need to drop everything right now and go be with my best friend and figure out what's going on because I'm really concerned. And the small town that she is talking about is Prince Edward Island, and if you are a fan of Anne of Green Gables, you will know exactly what Prince Edward Island is. It's an island in Canada, and it's very important to that book, and Anne of Green Gables definitely does make a lot of appearances in this book, which I think is so fun. And as somebody who loves the book, who loves the series and the movie and everything like that, I just ate it up totally. But yeah, the main character has actually been to Prince Edward Island a few times with her best friend and hanging out with her family and stuff like that. And we find out that the first trip that she ever made to Prince Edward Island, she ended up meeting her best friend's brother and not realizing that that was her brother, and ended up hooking up with him. And so they kind of have this history. They have a lot of tension and a lot of chemistry, and they are just trying to make things work and not focus on the relationship and try to focus on the best friend. But obviously romance ensues. Obviously the chemistry cannot be denied, and so yeah, I loved this book so much. I highly recommend it if you're looking for like a very summery, fun, beautiful, but also kind of emotional romance. I think that this is perfect. And yeah, even if you read Every Summer After and you didn't totally love it the way, you know, obviously I didn't totally love it either, I highly recommend picking up this book and just trying it out, kind of like going in with a clean slate and with an open mind, because it's actually a really great book. And it also kind of influenced me to buy her newest book, One Golden Summer, which I will be reading very soon. So super excited to pick this one up. I've heard so many good things. And I also want to pick up her older book, Meet Me by the Lake, I believe is what it's called, and I remember hearing a few like mixed reviews about that book, but I'm hoping that maybe I will actually really enjoy it. The next 3 books that I read, I actually read within the last 2, nearly 3 days of the month. Like I said, throughout the month of May, I was kind of having like on and off again slumps, or just like mental blocks of I cannot read any of these books. Like I just kept picking up audiobooks and ebooks and stuff like that and being like, I don't like this one, I don't like this one, I don't like this one. And it's so frustrating and really does kind of stop me from picking up other books, and kind of, you know, it doesn't create a fun reading environment. So that was really tough. But I picked up these 3 books. I absolutely loved all 3 of them. They're so good. And it really kind of rejuvenated my excitement and enjoyment of reading. So the first one I picked up was Immaculate Conception by Ling Huang. Like I said, loved Natural Beauty, so I had to pick up her second book. I had so many people telling me, you need to read this one, you're gonna love it, and so I was like, you know what, I am going to trust you all. And I'm so glad that I did, because I loved Immaculate Conception. It was so good. Not quite as good as Natural Beauty, I will say, I'm gonna be honest. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars, but it was still very, very well done. Basically, this one follows this young woman, and she is an artist, and she has this really good friend who she views as a much better artist, and she has a lot of like jealousy attached to this good friend of hers. But through this friendship and through this jealousy, there's kind of created this codependent relationship between the two of them, and it really starts to go towards a dark route when the main character meets and falls in love with this tech science billionaire, and she kind of starts to have all of this access to this very weird technology and very questionable science, and things start to go very awry within this codependent relationship she has with her friend from art school. It's very dark, it's very twisted, it's very weird, but I will say that it's not quite as weird as Natural Beauty. Like I do definitely see like the weirdness in this book, but it's a little bit different. But this book definitely does have like this commentary on AI art, on how we view art itself and like the artist and the trauma that might birth art. And there's also a lot of commentary on how advancements in technology can kind of start to devalue real art and like physical art and stuff like that, and real originality. So I think that's a really interesting book, and like Natural Beauty, it's very timely. But like I said, there was something about it that just didn't fully click with me, and I'm not sure what was missing, but I just didn't feel the same sort of like emotional reaction to Immaculate Conception that I did with Natural Beauty. But both are really great books. I know that there are plenty of people who feel the opposite way about these two books, so definitely go into both of them. I highly recommend them both. I think I'm pretty comfortable in saying that Ling Huang might be a new favorite author. I'm not sure, but like I said, I love literary fiction horror crossovers, so if you also really like that, highly recommend both of her books. The second to last book I read was actually a physical book. I'm so proud of myself. I've actually gotten really into reading physical books lately, and that is so exciting. So I ended up reading Savor by Tarah DeWitt, and I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it, and like I said, small town romance is really my thing right now. And actually this book kind of took me a while to start, because I did get this as an ARC, as you can probably tell, advanced readers copy or advanced readers edition, on sale 5/21/24. And this was actually published by St. Martin's, and I got it during the boycott of St. Martin's, so I never talked about it, I never posted about it, I never read it. And so I was kind of like looking on my shelves being like, what do I want to read? I kind of want to pick up a physical book, but I'm not sure what. And my eye caught this book, and I'm like, you know what? Let's read it. The boycott is over. Let's read this book. So I'm so glad I picked it up. And I had actually been recommended Tarah DeWitt's newest book, the one that literally just came out, Left of Forever, I believe. And I really wanted to read that, but obviously did not have an ARC of it. It wasn't out yet, so I picked up this one, and I'm so glad that I did. It was so good. Basically it follows these two people. There's Sage, and she lives in this small town. Her ex-boyfriend just recently got engaged, and she is having some very complicated feelings about it, and kind of wants to show him that she is totally fine, she is over him, and that she is actually the winner in this relationship. And in this small town, there is a festival where there are some competitions, and she really wants to beat her ex-boyfriend in these competitions, and she just needs a partner. So in comes Fisher. He is from New York City and he is a Michelin starred chef, but he has gone through a lot of rough times. He recently lost one of his Michelin stars. His sister passed away a couple of years ago, and he is actually the legal guardian of his teenage niece. And so they end up moving to this small town because one of his, like, not like business partners, but kind of like bosses or whatever, is opening up a new restaurant there, and they kind of need him to go and make friends with a lot of the locals and kind of see what's going on and get the vibe check. So he ends up going to this small town. He meets the other main character, Sage, and they end up kind of hitting it off, and he's helping her out with the competition. She is helping him out by kind of immersing him into this small town community. So really enjoyed this book. It was so good. Really great chemistry between these two main characters, and I love a dual perspective romance. I know that that doesn't work for everybody, but it works for me every time. I love getting to see the main character's perspective, the love interest perspective. I need to be in everybody's brain, and so really enjoyed this. I feel like if you really like books like beach read or even maybe book lovers or stuff like that, it also kind of has those vibes, which I really appreciate as an Emily Henry stan. I love a romance book that kind of gives me very similar vibes to Emily Henry. So really enjoyed this book, highly recommend it. Cannot wait to read Left of Forever. I think I'm really going to enjoy it. So yeah, definitely recommend this book. And the very last book that I read was actually an arc, and that is Never Over by Clare Gilmore. I can never remember this author's name for some reason, so sorry that I have to keep looking at my phone. This is an adult romance book that is being published on the 28th of October of this year, and I ended up giving this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. This one is about this young woman, and she wants to be a lyricist. She wants to write songs and give them off to other artists for them to perform. She isn't really into the performing aspect, so that's why she just wants to be kind of more behind the scenes. And she ends up sending off some of her songs to a record label, and they meet with her and they're like, we really like the direction of your songs, but they are not nearly like, there's not like this connection. Like, you need more of an emotional connection. They're a little too vague. Come back to us in like a month or so and give us some new stuff, and we will go from there. They also kind of want her to be more of a performer, but she is still kind of like not really into that. That was something that was a little bit frustrating for me the entire time, because I'm like, girl, you will be fine. Like, you do not have to be Taylor Swift if you want to write songs. Like, just because you are writing songs and you are making music, you don't have to be Taylor Swift. You don't have to be Beyonce. You don't have to be like this like huge act of like, I'm gonna go out there and perform in this like big way. It's like, you don't have to do that. You don't even have to perform to like big venues or anything like that. Like, you could totally be a like Lizzie McAlpine or whatever and kind of like not really be super into the performing aspect and just be a normal musician. There are plenty of normal musicians out there who like don't do huge performances or don't even do performances all that often. So it just kind of like frustrated me a little bit that she felt like she had to be like all or nothing. That just, it was weird. But anyway, but basically this is kind of like a second chance romance. She has this love interest and he is the muse for a lot of her music, or she kind of like feels like he is a really good muse because the songs that she did write about him were really good, but a lot of the songs that she didn't write about him were just kind of like mid. So she really wants to rekindle this romance and kind of try to fall in love with him again in order to get all those feelings back and use them for material. So they end up reconnecting and he goes along with this scheme, like he knows all about it. She's not trying to like pull one over on him, which I really liked. And yeah, so she ends up going on tour with him. He's kind of like a stagehand or like tour manager-esque kind of position. And it was really sweet. It was really cute. There was a lot of like depth to this book, which I really enjoyed. And like I said with Sips About to Go Down, sometimes when books are written about a second chance romance or two characters who have a bit of history between them, sometimes authors just like don't fully hit the mark. This one thankfully hit the mark. It stuck the landing. It stuck the landing. I'm like, I don't know the terminology. I'm thinking of stick it. Anyway, this author definitely hit the mark, and it was perfectly done, perfectly executed. Really enjoyed this book. Like I said, great chemistry between these two characters, and I feel like typically I will skip song lyrics. It happens a lot. Sometimes authors are not very good at writing song lyrics. However, this one was just really good. I actually highly recommend not skipping the song lyrics. They're really good. And like I said, if you're a fan of like Lizzie McAlpine, Taylor Swift, Gracie Abrams, musicians like that, highly recommend this book. It was so good. And also another thing, sometimes I have a gripe with authors not writing the music industry well. Like, they just don't know what goes on, they don't really understand it, and they try to write about it and it's just like very clunky, very awkward. Thankfully, this author either has experience with the music industry or did her research, because it was really well done. So kudos to Clare Gilmore. This book was so much fun. Definitely check it out when it comes out in October. So those were all of the books that I read in May. I hope you guys enjoyed this wrap up. Definitely let me know in the comments down below if you've also read any of these books. Let me know your thoughts about them. Also, if you read any good books in May, let me know about them. I need some recommendations. And yeah, so if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Also, go ahead and follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, Storygraph, TikTok. All the links are down below. And I will see you all in my next video. Bye!